Wonderful people of the internet, welcome to the DMV Super League, episode 6. I am your host, Cody Colston, and with me today I have the one, the only, Mr. Daniel Scott. Scott, how you feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good today. Looking forward to enjoying some more Super League action and some great players playing some great Legacy Magic.
Great. Today we have Alex Knopf versus Paul Lynch. Alex coming in as the number 1 wildcard seed on the Maryland side, and Paul coming as the number 2 seed from Game Haven. We have a really interesting setup of players here today. Scott, what do you think?
So these two players actually play each other a bunch at Game Haven specifically, and you got actually kind of two similar decks, at least recently. Alex, I've seen playing a lot of the blue white like Felia decks and those style of decks. For anybody who's been around Legacy for a long time, probably knows Paul, a longtime player, at least in more recent years, has been playing lots of Delver, but also Control decks, Miracles, back when that was legal 15 years ago. So it's a choice with that, but also Alex, notably, or at least what I usually think of him for, was affinity style decks, especially ones I think he played those in modern. So seeing him come over with those gives definitely a different range. You could see more of a control, grindy, long matchup out of both players, but maybe we'll see Alex deciding to spike something really quickly, hoping to catch Paul, maybe going a little bit slower.
I totally agree there. Alex is newer to the scene than Paul. Paul has been around for the block a long time, so it's going to be a little bit of a young versus old. But me and you both know these players. The DMV knows these players, so it's time for the world to know these players. We're going to kick it off to our commissioner, Mr. Ryan Freeberger, with some interviews.
I'm here with Paul Lynch. Paul, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good. It finally stopped raining in Baltimore, so I am ecstatic right now.
Why would you say that out loud, man? You know it's going to happen again.
I know,
So,
I know.
so Paul, you made it in by being the number 2 seed at Game Haven, which you lost out by a single point. How is
Ye-
that? Is that tilting at all? Give you a chip?
Not really. Like pretty much the whole like the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
We recently had bans, so I was trying everything under the sun. I was playing a different deck almost every week. Until collectively as our playtest group, all kind of got onto the Welder Cam deck.
Mhm.
And I really, really enjoyed it. Goblin Welder is like kind of a pet card for me. I played a lot during like Saga Block and back in the day and playing it in Extended a lot. So I had a lot of fun playing that. So I was pretty happy that I was still able to get the 1 or 2 seat. Even though I, for lack of better terms, I was just kind of scientific methoding and you know messing around and finding out for the PG stream here. With just a lot of different weird decks and losing a lot, but still being able to pull it through when it counted.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that because I took a look at your resume before this. 5 SCG top 8s, 1 SCG win, and a Eternal Weekend top 8. And it looks like they were all with different decks. You play around with all kinds of things. I've got Delver on here. I've got Stoneblade on here. I've got Enchantress on here. You're just all over the place. Have you always been like that?
Yeah. I never like to kind of pigeonhole myself with decks.
Mhm.
Back when we used to do a lot of play testing, when it was all of us at the house, we would play each other's decks because the best way to learn something is to play it. Even if you suck at it, you're still going to learn a lot out of it. Like I used to play Storm, Sneak Attack, a lot of Dredge back in the day. I just love the format, and I tried playing as many different decks as I could.
Well, you've been certainly playing a lot. Now, I see the list. Obviously, you're not playing Enchantress. Obviously, you're not going to play Stoneblade. So I imagine you're on a Delver shell today.
No, you would be incorrect.
Oh, I'm
Um,
incorrect. What are we on today?
So we got a little bit of spice here tonight.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
seen everyone else bringing cool decks and unique takes and stuff like that. And it's not a big surprise, as many people in the area know. Not exactly super high on the decks that are being played now.
Mhm.
It's just I kind of get in this groove at the beginning of the season, usually where I can't find anything I like. I don't, I'm just not playing enough decks. So I brought something out of my closet. I've been playing a lot of pre-modern lately,
Mhm.
and I decided to port Enchantress into 2026. So
Enchantress in 2026.
yes, Enchantress in the year of our Gothian Lord.
There you go.
My thinking was kind of rolling dice here and gambling a little bit. Knopf is a pretty good player. He definitely cleans my clock occasionally when we play at weeklies. But he definitely has a set decks that he likes to play, and they're usually blue tempo based, usually
Yep.
cutter or blue white Felia or some form of 27 color control beans deck
Right.
or affinity and welder cam. So the more I got
Mhm.
thinking, um, Enchantress is fun. It always had a decent matchup against the tempo-y style decks, and it had a good matchup against control. Well, the current builds of it, as you guys will see when you look at Decklist, you drop Sigil. It's just not a playable card. I tried it a couple weeks ago. It wasn't that great. So I went with the more compact kill of we got Destiny Spinner.
Yep.
Recently, but it's been a couple of years now. And then the other kill is Rest in Peace, Helm of Obedience, which a lot of the tempo decks right now, Helm is really good against the cutter builds. It takes Murktide off if they're playing that. It takes DRC down a notch. It cuts Flow State out from underneath of them. If Alex is playing the Welder Cam deck, it completely cuts the combo out. They just don't have any combo aspect out of that. And if they have to play fair with only limited counter magic, it might not go well for them. And then there's a lot of sideboard hate for all these various decks. Things like Elephant Grass, Containment Priest, Stony Silence, Nevermore. That's one people are going to have to look up. I get
Yeah, I'm about to say.
it.
Looking at this sideboard, Elven Grass, Karmic Justice, Nevermore, Aang's Iceberg. That's at least a recent cards. They might not have to look up that one, but the rest, there's going to be some Googling on this one, folks.
Oh yeah. It's definitely fun. I've been playing it like a week or two now, kind of getting a list together. Was a 3-color build, was a different 3-color build, went back to 2, changed some sideboard stuff, but I've been happy with it. If I don't play against Bowmaster and Thoughtseize or Tron, Tron is
Yep.
hell. It is hell. Especially since I'm not on the Blood Moon build. Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Plus, Blood Moon's not that great anyway. They can just get to 7 mana, cast Dugan, and blow it up, and I'm just kind of going, well, what do I do?
Well, we're going to find out, and we're going to head back to the booth. Thanks for the interview.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. In the year of our Gothian Lords 2026, we have an Enchantress sighting. Not quite a meta pick from Paul, but definitely very interesting. Scott, thoughts?
So I helped Paul kind of pick this deck out. Really, he asked me if he thought this would be a good idea into what Alex is likely to play, knowing locally that Alex has been playing a lot of like the blue-white Felia decks and variations of controlled decks, at least in recent times. Enchantress is very good into those. It's not necessarily quite as good against, say, the affinity decks that Alex is probably more known for, but it does have at least a bit of play depending on how it goes. If the affinity deck is fast, it's probably going to get under it. And it was a little bit of a dice rolly choice, but I think it's at least an interesting one and definitely a fun one. And he just has to hope he can avoid the Orcish Bowmasters or he's going to end up like Boromir.
Nice. All right, with that said, I'm going to kick it back over to our commissioner, Mr. Ryan Freeberger, with his interview with Alex.
I'm here with Alex Knopf. Alex, how are we doing today?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. Now, Alex, you qualified as the number one at large bid from Maryland because you were all over the place. How's that make you feel?
I mean, I've been doing a lot of playing. I got a lot of time in my hands, and Magic's where I'm putting it, so I'm hoping it's paying off.
Well, fair enough. Now, Luck of the Draw did give you Paul, who you see quite regularly at Game Haven and Level Up. Does that familiarity give you what you feel like an advantage?
I don't know if it would give me an advantage per se, but I do know his range pretty well, and
Sure.
I am going to try to utilize that in today's play for sure.
Now, speaking of range, I know from experience, you have played quite a big range, but when it comes to BCQs, you have played the exact same deck in 3 different events and top aided all 3 of the ones I'm mentioning. Are you bringing the same powerhouse today?
So I've been playing a lot of Artifacts Affinity, as you well know. The last couple of decks that I played involved the Goblin Welder strategy with the Sewer Cam. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not advanced enough to play that online right now because I don't feel like going through the clicking. So I'm going to use the most simple version of Affinity that I'm familiar with, bread and bones,
classic affinity. Any tech you want to talk about? I'm looking at it. It looks like some pretty stock affinity. It really looks like you just went to the level 0 and said this is good enough.
So it was good enough because this is the list that I actually qualified with in the
There you
first
go.
BCQ of the season. I went undefeated in that event, and the thing is with Affinity, the reason that this deck is so interesting is because its floor could be extremely low at times, but its ceiling goes absolutely through the roof. It's a very explosive deck, but the problem is that when you don't go with those explosive starts, you sometimes lose to yourself. But recently, what happened was some of the additions, especially Pinnacle Emissary, made you have sort of like various openings that make the deck a little bit better. So if you have one of those three openings, which is usually the Saga start, the Patchwork start, or the Pinnacle start, you can actually hedge against some of your draws and try to basically win on basically taking various roads to victory. Whereas before, you just had to have your nutted hand in the very beginning.
Absolutely. Now, as we said, you are experienced with Paul. You know his range. What do you think Paul's on, and how do you think this is going to pair up against him?
So obviously anything can happen. Paul could try to cheese me. I was thinking about cheesing him as well. I decided not to. But honestly, if Paul isn't running 4 copies of Ponder in his deck, I mean, then I don't know Paul. So that's basically where I'm at. Legend has that he's actually resolving a Ponder right now as we speak. So
that's probably true, actually. So you're just thinking he's on a Ponder deck, you're on a deck that has Chalice, we're good here.
That's basically where I put it. I mean, most likely he would play blue-black tempo. That is the deck that he's been showing up to most events with. I've seen him play it nonstop. There's a chance that he'll go blue-red, and there's a chance that he'll do something completely crazy that I'm not prepared for, but, you know, I'm hoping we're going to have a good game either way, so I'm ready for whatever.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. And just for the viewers at home, what were you thinking about cheesing him with?
I thought about some show and tell strategies with Omniscience. I thought about playing main deck Veil of Summer. I thought about going 4 off Carpet of Flowers. I mean,
sure.
I went through pretty much everything. It's, at the end of the day, you know what? I'm just going to go with what I know, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens. Well, thank you for the interview. Good luck today, and we're going to send it back to the booth.
Alex is sticking with his affinity here, going with this big blue artifact shell, trying to see if he can stop out the competition. Very much a safe pick for Alex. What are your thoughts here, Scott?
This is definitely not unexpected from him. It's the deck has been doing good with, as he mentioned, at the BCQs, so it's not surprising to see him pick this one, and it's a strong deck. Kappa Cannoneer, since it's come out, has been a very powerful card in Legacy, and this is definitely the kind of deck that could easily get under Paul. It was honestly on the side of the 50-50 that I was talking about with him, that we might have expected would be bad, but not necessarily awful. Some of the cards, like the Rest in Peace, which are better against the Welder Cam deck, aren't as good as this against this deck, and this deck is pretty fast. And Chalice of the Void is another card that, while not as strong as it used to be against Enchantress, where it was just pretty lights out, with the addition of Destiny Spinner, it's a card that can be played through, but could easily be rough, especially if Alex is to play. So I think game one is pretty heavily, or at least a good bit, leaning towards Alex, but it looks like Paul's sideboard is very well suited to at least come in and sneak out games 2 and 3 if that's how he doesn't manage to get there in game 1.
Fully agreed here. I have Paul in 3 just because of that sideboard and that game plan that I don't think Alex is going to be ready for. Being a newer player to the Legacy scene, I don't know if he's going to know exactly what his force targets are, where his pincher plays should be. So I think Paul's going to take some of the experience here he has running this list and going to take away this match today. With that said, I think we're both ready to head to the feature match area and watch these two powerful wizards battle it out. Let's kick it over. Alrighty, folks, we're here in game 1. Alex has the choice of play draw. We're going to have some very interesting mulligan decisions here. Scott, what are we looking for on these sides of the tables to get this match started?
So from Alex, I want to see a really fast start. The hand he has here looks maybe a little slow, and maybe it'll run out of gas. Unfortunately, the Force of Will is pretty dead, since he's going to start Pinnacle and probably just try to dump everything else. I didn't really like this hand, but it looks like he didn't mulligan it. So we'll see that. Paul's hand was unkeepable and his mulligan to a pretty solid number 2 hand.
Yeah. We have a Pinnacle start off a seat of the Synod with Alex, and it looks like he's probably just gonna just deploy his 0 drop so he can get some drones here. Back over to Paul's real quick. What are you looking for on the mulligans to these Enchantress decks? We haven't seen a whole lot of these in the meta lately. Is it just like multi hit an Enchantress, or?
So you can definitely do a little bit of multi, you get an Enchantress depending on what it is. It's not an unreasonable choice. Depending on in the dark, that's a pretty safe option. You have 11 of them in Paul's list, or yeah, 11 of them. So it's pretty reasonable and just enough lands to keep yourself going. Some acceleration is nice, which we didn't get here. No Utopia Sprawls, no Wild Growth, but he does have a piece of removal and he does at least have a good follow up play in Destiny Spinner. So while he is probably going to take this turn off, it's a pretty good start.
Right, right. And then we got a Pinnacle from Alex on this draw. It looks like he's just going to probably try and deploy here and try and keep some pressure on Paul. We're going to lead on this Ancient Tomb. Pinnacle is a blue card that does pitch to Force, and I do think that's kind of, one of the big pluses to having Pinnacle in this deck on not only those fast, like dump your hand starts as Alex casts this Pinnacle Emissary from exile when he goes in for 2, but being blue has been a blue artifact being able to pitch to Force of Will. It definitely has helped this Affinity Shell evolve and become a little bit more prevalent in the meta.
Yeah, that's definitely very true. And at the very least, it's always still kind of usable. The red can be a little frustrating since you don't have a ton of sources for it to use, but the warp side at least always being castable as blue makes it very easy to get out, and the Force of Will casting is very good.
All right, so we let off that Prismatic Vista getting a Plains, followed up by a Forest, and then we have one Thin Ice to exile that Emissary. Good tempo play from Paul. And it looks like he's probably going to pass the turn. We have a lot of mana in hand. So the 2 Sarah Sanctums and the Argothian Enchantress with the Destiny Spinner. What are we looking for on Paul's field to try and kind of turn the corner here? Because it looks like Alex might just deploy another threat in this Patchwork Automaton. Yep, that's exactly what he does. But yeah, what are we looking up for on Paul's side of the field, right, to kind of stabilize?
So he doesn't have like an elephant grass in the deck, unfortunately, at least in the main deck. So really, he's just trying to jam a bunch of things as fast as he can and hopefully stem the bleeding quick enough to set up a solitary lock. He could also try to hit a Sithis, would be pretty nice. The life gain is definitely going to be more relevant in the spot where it looks like he's just getting poked at with the drones and stuff like that. So it's would be pretty good to hit a Sithis right now too. Unfortunately, he's not playing Green Sunsinus in this version, so he can't just go search it out.
Right. It looks like Alex is debating whether or not he wants to force, and it looks like he forces the Enchantress. So that's a good sign for on Alex's side of the field that while he may not have played this matchup a whole, he knows what his force targets should look like. So we're probably going to be getting another pass from Paul, and then Alex is just going to start just keep turning creatures sideways, and we hit an Emery. That's gonna be big for Alex because now we can start looping this pedal, and start growing this Patchwork Automaton and growing this clock. It looks like Paul might be on his back foot a little bit here.
Yeah, losing the Argothian Enchantress this turn was unfortunate. He doesn't really have any good follow-up. The Destiny Spinner is definitely something that he wants in this kind of matchup to protect him from Force of Wills, but it's looking less relevant now that, Alex has already dumped his hand. On the flip side of that, the Rest in Peace isn't as good in this matchup as General as, say, the Welder versions are pretty relevant here against the Emery.
Fully agreed. And you think we're it looks like we're gonna lead on the Sithis and then follow up with this Rest in Peace so we can get that card draw. Maybe what Paul's thinking. I remember I've talked with Paul in the past about this Enchantress deck because I've played a little bit of Enchantress in Modern, and then he's very big on sequencing can be like the bread and butter for this deck. If you name your back when the deck played Utopia Thralls and things like of that nature, naming the wrong color or something along those lines could definitely be the death knell for your match or your game, and could really be your downturn. But it looks like he thought it through. He knows what his sequencing wants to look like here, and I think this is going to be the start of a rebound for Paul.
Yeah, the Sithis was a fantastic draw there. This line is pretty easy here. Just it's like he doesn't have a force of will up, so you don't have to worry about that. So just deploy the Sithis and then deploy the Rest in Peace. The argument really could be: do you want to play the Destiny Spinner instead of the Rest in Peace? I think the Rest in Peace is just much better here. I don't think you need to be super worried about getting countered on the next turn. It would be unfortunate, but isn't the end of the world. And obviously, we want to play the Sithis first for the life gain, which is going to be relevant when he's attacking with at least 2/1/1s right now. Try to turn that off. And obviously, you want to draw more cards. But yeah, the list is still playing the Utopia Sprawls. And Paul is very right. Utopia Sprawl naming and sequencing is really like how you can tell a good Enchantress player from a bad one. The sequencing with the deck can cost you really quickly. It doesn't initially look like the deck is as mana intense as you think it is, but when you cast like 15 spells in one turn, the colors start mattering a lot very quickly.
Yep, exactly. And Alex is gonna rips the Urza Saga off the top, and he's just gonna crash in here. I think that the Rest in Peace turning off. I think you exactly said that perfectly. You don't want to. You're not really worried about the Destiny Spinner getting countered next turn. If it does, I think getting this Rest in Peace down earlier is good for turning off this Emery, so we can't start looping. But I'm liking what I'm seeing here for Paul here, having the Enchantress and effect in play, and the Destiny Spinner. We have both the win con and the engine nearby. So I'm ready to see what we can get from Paul as Paul plays the Sarah Sanctum. It looks like we might get a pass here.
No, we had the Sarah Sanctum last turn. We haven't seen him draw just yet. There's his draw.
Oh, there's the draw. Okay, all right. And it's an Enchantress effect. There we go. All right.
Yep. The second Enchantress effect is pretty critical. 2 to 3 is generally where you want to end up being. 2 lets you pretty easily get your solitary confinement locks online. You can get a little unfortunate and get locked under it. I've had it happen before, and I've definitely seen Paul have it happen at 2. If you just get very unlucky, you have a lot of basic lands. He doesn't necessarily, and just lands in general, you can get a little stuck. But 2 is definitely when you start getting off to the races, especially with a Sarah Sanctum in play. So it looks like he's just going to start churning out things as he can now.
Yep. And then we hit the Wild Growth and we hit the Sterling Grove. I think that's huge for Paul right now, because basically making everything on his board untouchable and getting a tutor on board is going to make it so we can set up those solitary confinement lines that you were just talking about. I think we're going to see Paul ball rolling here. I'm very excited to see how Alex is going to respond. If you're in Alex's seat, what are you thinking? What are you trying to? What are you hoping to hit off the top to try and put more pressure on Paul here?
So if I was Alex, I'd be hoping for a Kappa Cannoneer to try and maybe see if I can just push through quickly. Maybe another Urza Saga to just try to go big around before Paul gets online. But with Paul deploying this Sterling Grove, unfortunately, this is going to take a number of his answers off the board, at least for removal. With Sterling Grove protecting all of his Enchantress effects and everything else, Sterling Grove is taking a lot of lines away from Alex.
All right, it looks like we're getting some action from Alex. It looks like he might be deploying this Otawara. I wonder what exactly it is we're targeting here, because anything we bounce on Paul's board at the moment is just going to typically mean another card he could draw. Looks like we're getting the On Thin Ice. That's very surprising. So we're getting the Pinnacle Emissary back to try and push damage. So that's going to be, what, another 4, 5, 6, 7-ish damage that we can try and push. Was that the right line there for Alex, or you think it was just Alex trying to use his resources efficiently?
I think it was maybe a little bit of Alex trying to use his resources efficiently. You don't have a card in hand to actually trigger your Pinnacle Emissary, so it's not necessarily going to work on the next turn. The Sithis was probably the correct choice. Maybe slow him down on some life, and you still take another enchantment, and you also remove a draw effect. I don't think you're going to get enough out of this Pinnacle Emissary here.
Yeah, and it looks like we have a Kappa. Alex hits the Kappa. It might be too little, too late. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be enough. Maybe a turn or two before we could actually utilize it to its full potential. But with just the emissary, the patchwork, a very small patchwork, and Emery and 2 drones, I don't think this is much of a good enough threat to pressure Paul. Paul's kind of in the driver's seat right now.
It definitely could be little bit too late. It's one of those, if you can get it down this turn and maybe get enough power on it, it could go fast enough, maybe with at least one construct. But this is hoping he doesn't get necessarily locked out next turn. And if Paul does have a Sterling Grove, he could decide to just go for it right away, or maybe a little bit later into his turn. It's always an option to just go, okay, I think I have enough here to play this solitary confinement and say, you can't stop me. But it also may depend on exactly what Alex does when he decides if he wants to keep it for some protection or if he wants to cash it out.
Yeah, fully agree. And how it looks like Paul's gonna untap here with like I think Alex is trying to figure out if he or how exactly he wants to attack. But Paul's gonna untap with like 11 mana plus he can redeploy another Sarah Sanctum to get even more. I think we're just gonna see Paul kind of churn through his deck, and just with nothing to stop him.
That is definitely what Paul's hoping for. Yeah, he's really hoping to not just rip too many lands in a row and just churn cards here. He's got a lot of green mana. He's got basically infinite white mana in his hand with the Sarah Sanctum. So as long as he doesn't get too choked on the green mana, he should be able to churn through the large majority of his deck here.
All right, and then looks like Paul's just looks like he's just dumping his hand with what he can. So we see another wild growth. We're gonna see an on thin ice here. And then I think Paul's just off to the races. And then we have very on the far end we have a new card, Aang's Iceberg. It's the O-ring with flash, and it has an ability for 3 sacrifice it draw 2 or scry 2. I'm sorry. And it's a new addition along with Seam Rip. Can you talk about a little bit about those while Paul just kind of just draws his deck?
Yeah, so O-Ring is a card that is historically usually would only play one, maybe two in the deck, sometimes in the sideboard. It's just a 3 mana removal spell that can draw you cards, and it can remove most everything relevant. Obviously, you can't hit lands, but you could hit annoying enchantments, you could hit any creatures, you can hit artifacts. It's just a solid card. The flash is a nice bonus. The sacrifice it is kind of weird to be on an O-Ring effect, and you're probably never really ever going to use it, but it does exist. It could, in theory, come up, especially because there's Urza Sagas to make constructs. Seam Rip is definitely the more interesting of the cards. It's definitely seen a lot of play in some other formats and is just a good card. It only hits mana value 2 or less, but that's a lot of cards that you can hit in Legacy and get rid of them. So a 1 mana remove a good chunk of the format is really good, especially something like a Flip Tameo does lose to Seam Rip.
Very true. It's the race to see who can get rid of the Tameo or to flip their Tameo here as Paul in the format right now. Paul deploys his solitary confinement. We have part 1 of the lock piece down. And then I think Paul is just like I said, he's just in the driver's seat. So we're probably going to deploy Destiny Spinner here. We can start probably next turn just activating this Destiny Spinner, turning some of these lands into some big beaters. If Paul decides to go that route, I think he just has kind of the world's his oyster at the moment. He's not playing with his food. I know Paul, but it's just like I'm not sure what else what else he needs to prove here.
Yeah, at this point, I think he's just trying to make the best sequencing to get rid of everything. It looks like he deployed the second Sarah Sanctum, so now he has a bunch of white mana. And as I said, it looks like green may be the little bit of the constriction, but he's got so much removal in his hand here, both Besaju's, a sword, and the Aang's Iceberg, like we mentioned before. I think he can pick off all the relevant cards at this point, and with the solitary confinement, while he did use the Sterling Grove to put it on top of his deck at some point and then drew it later. With the Otawara gone, I'm not sure, at least game 1, Alex has a good answer to deal with the solitary confinement by itself.
Yeah, I think we have like some sink into stupors in the deck list. Typically they run. Yeah, I think we have exactly 3 sink into supers we haven't seen yet from Alex. So he does have outs, but it's just he's so far on the back foot and so far behind, and Paul's just gaining so much life with every spell he's casting. And as we see a Boseiju try go to hit this Urza Saga, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what else we really need to say here other than can we get to game 2?
Yeah, yeah, I think this game is pretty over at this point. it looks like maybe one or two things are going to be left. Paul can definitely get rid of the other two creatures with the Boseiju and the sword, so he can get rid of the automaton because Ward 2 doesn't matter too much when your Serra Sanctum taps for 12 mana, it looks like right now, something like that. More mana than you'll ever need to pay. Even that Kappa Cannoneer isn't doing much with a Serra Sanctum in play. So it's really, I think, on Alex to just say, okay, I'm going to pick up my cards. You can stop just killing me now.
Yeah. We hit the mythical third line in Moto as we have as Paul has played yet another permanent. I think so playing across from Paul at weeklies, you know, he's the nicest guy. He's always very welcoming, very warm. He always wants to talk, you know, talk your ear off, and I love him for that. But when you sit across from him as a competitor, he is all business. He is I'm gonna play very straight and to the T with my sequencing and how I'm operating, how he operates throughout the match. So I don't think he's playing with his food here. I think he's just trying to be efficient and trying to make sure that the game doesn't slip by him and make sure Alex has 0 outs because he's probably going to have to pass the turn here, and then to before he can go to next turn when he can start activating these Destiny spinners.
Yeah, notably also the drones can't block, and 2 of those Destiny spinners should be lethal pretty quickly. Actually, no, I think just at this point, 1 of them is lethal from the Destiny spinners, and he can easily activate a couple of them. Paul is he's definitely an intense player when you're playing him on the board. He likes to really think it out. He's definitely by no means trying to overdo it. He's just being like, if you're going to make me play this out, I'm still going to take all the efficient and correct lines that I can. And everything I've seen from here, the sequencing looks good. All of it looks fine. I think the only thing I might have considered changing is, well, no, you might have argued to swords the Emery instead in the line and maybe try to get the token when you Boseiju the Urza Saga, you get a token obviously from Alex because he's basically was always going to do it. And then you could just try to get rid of the Aang's Iceberg and Scry 2 if you really think that was necessarily irrelevant, but it's also one of those. He's already drawing so many cards, it may not actually matter in the least.
Yeah. And it looks like Alex draws another Kappa Cannoneer again. Too little, too late. Looks like we're gonna get a deployment here, and then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Destiny Spinners give the lands trample, or is it just oh yeah, they give them trample and haste. So it genuinely does not matter. I think what Alex puts on the board here.
Yeah, I don't think he can put enough toughness into play to block at least 2, and that's all Paul should need is 2 of those should be enough to go turn sideways in the game. So it should be pretty wrapped up as soon as Paul wants it to.
All right, let's see what we get from Paul.
Notably, Paul decided to keep another Serra Sanctum in his hand in case he decides he needs to go even deeper and get lots of mana, and then he'll Windswept Heath for just to go get another forest in case thin your deck a little bit so you don't draw any more lands, and obviously more removal, a backup solitary. It pretty much just saying, I don't need another card to win the game. I can make my own win conditions, so I'm just going to protect myself as much as I can. I don't really need to churn unless something really bad happens.
And Paul taps for the Serra Sanctum for 10 mana. Oh boy, this is you don't see lands tapping for 10 mana that often in Legacy. You know, we have Tron in the format right now, so it's always fun. And it looks like Alex has decided to scoop up his cards. All right, we're gonna go ahead and head over to some boarding options as we get ready for game 2. All right, we're hitting the ground running with some sideboarding here. Let's take a look what Alex is thinking. So looks like he's sideboarding out some Aether Spell Bombs and some Pithing Needles, some easy Urza Saga targets. What do you think he's bringing in here? My money's on the Dismembers.
So the Dismember is a choice. It's one of those, it's a weird one. Like, removal in general isn't very good against the deck. Notably, 8 of your Enchantress effects don't die to it, or if you're an Enchantress having Shroud, and Enchantress Reverence being an enchantment. So you can kill the Synthesis, which is possibly relevant. You can also get rid of the Destiny Spinners, so you may want some of them. I'm not sure you need all of them.
Very true, very true. Is there any merit to the Harbinger to try and turn off the Sarah Sanctum for these big turns, or is it kind of more of a dead card?
I think it's way more detrimental for you to lose your Urza Saga than it is for Paul to lose his Sarah Sanctums.
Very true. Okay. And this is a question for me. Let's turn over to Paul here. So we have some choices here. He looks like he's trimming on some of the combo packages between the Rest in Peace and the Sterling Groves, and going up on like some Force of Vigor, Stony Silence, and Elephant Grass. That seems relatively right to me. What do you think, Scott?
This all seems entirely reasonable. Veil is a card you maybe could consider. They are a force deck. They could easily bring Fawns in out of the board. Elephant Grass is definitely going to be something to buy yourself a lot of time. Sony Silence is obviously pretty lights out against the artifact decks. It always has been since it's been put in. And Force of Vigor can easily buy you lots of time, hits most of the relevant cards you want to hit, and can just say the game is not necessarily over, but being able to blow up Urza Sagas or even just like uh, the artifact land.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Either
Yeah, turning off the seat of the Snide Eye with a Stony Silence is definitely a great tempo play. Is there any merit to this, like Nevermore? Like I can't cast my Kappa Cannoneers or turning off my Force of Will, so I have basically a pseudo fourth Destiny Spinner, or is that getting too cute?
that's largely getting too cute. The Nevermores in the board, along with the Karmic Justice, were largely supposed to be for more like Wrath of the Skies. It's not. There's nothing in the deck that you super can get out, and you could name Kappa Cannoneer with the Nevermore, but it's not that hard for you to stop it. And you're just hoping maybe they're too slow on it or it's too slow to get built up that you can get around it with maybe one of your own removal spells since you can get lots of mana from your Sarah Sanctum, or maybe you just get the chance then to finally get your solitary lock on online.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. All right, so it looks like our players are roughly finished about sideboarding, so let's go ahead and get started for game two. All right, Scott and I are back in the feature match area for game two. Now that we both players know what exactly is they're playing against, how are you trying to what are you thinking about mulligan choices here on both sides of the field, Scott?
So Alex, I think, should know that he basically needs to go as fast as he can, or should at least have that in his mind, try to not get locked out. So I'm looking for as fast as a possible start as I can. Maybe have one force if I can afford it to stop one critical piece. I don't want to just get immediately blown out by like the Stony Silences because that could easily be lights out. On Paul's side, maybe you can hope to have one or two good hate pieces, but I think your hands are largely going to try to be the same if you can. If you can afford to have like mulligan to a Stony Silence or something like that, the Elephant Grass to buy yourself a lot of time, that would be optimal. But otherwise, I think you just play any reasonable hand that you would keep in the first game.
Right. So Alex looks like he mulligans to 6 and starts on an Otawara, and then Paul keeps a full 7 grip. That's not that's a little scary from Alex's side. We got as we saw how quickly Paul got out of control last game. It looks like we're ready for some a very fast start with a Utopia sprawl and some basics with another rest in peace. What do you think is going through Alex's mind trying to navigate this Enchantress list so he doesn't lose the game like he lose the pressure he did in game one?
I again, I think you're just trying to go fast if you can. Maybe he's thinking he can try to control them out if he gets one big threat with a hand like this and the way it's shaping out with like the Emery. Maybe that's the chance he gets. Maybe the rest in peace doesn't look as good since he didn't see the helm part. Maybe it got I don't think it got discarded. So he probably didn't see the helm part and he doesn't know that it is part of a win condition. I think he's maybe thinking it's not as important so he can get sided out so the Emery lines get stronger post board. But otherwise, I if I was Alex, I think going as fast as you can is going to be your bet. I don't think you can out control Enchantress very easily. They can just replenish their hands so easily that it's very hard to do that.
Fully agreed. And speaking of replenished, was there any thought when Paul was building his board of having replenish in the deck?
We didn't talk about replenish specifically. It's one of those. It's a little bit too slow when the formats were more grindy and there was way more removal in you could expect it was probably more reasonable to have the replenishes. Nowadays, decks are just trying to fire so many haymakers so quickly. You don't necessarily get the chance to beat the replenish, and the decks that are going to be way slower anyway, you don't necessarily need the replenish for anymore. We just have such good threats anyway that it's largely outdated. Very much a pre-modern card at this point.
Very fair, very fair. All right, looks like we have some action from both sides of the field. We had a Utopia Sprawl from Paul and a Prismatic Vista, as well as a Rest in Peace that got countered. We have an Emery, and then it looks like we have a Bobble loop essentially set up with Urza's Bobble and Mox Opal and Emery. So we have some interesting action going on both sides of the field. It's just it looks like that Alex might be running out of cards very quickly compared to Paul. What do you think, what do you think Paul's looking for here, outside of his two Enchantress effects to try and lock this game out? Or do you think this is going to be enough from what he has right now?
If these don't get removed, I think Paul's incredibly happy with what he has and just not to flood out really, really bad. If he gets both of these down and then the solitary, if he draws one more enchantment within the next 3 or 4 cards, since I don't think he gets to deploy Sithis and then Destiny Spinner, so he's going to have to at least take another turn before he can, unless he draws a Sarah Sanctum, he's not going to get the solitary probably down next turn. He probably goes for the Enchantress Presence first. So if he can get all of that down, especially with the Destiny Spinner, he's got a win con. He can get the lock piece and can keep it going with the Enchantress's Presence and a Sithis, and that would be all he really needs. That could easily just end the game right there.
It looks like Alex fires off that Dismember as soon as he possibly can to get rid of that Sithis off the board. Good move by him. And we have a Tormod's Crypt draw from Alex. This is probably going to help power out this Kappa Cannoneer, but I'm not sure if this is going to be enough. It's going to be very interesting to see how this shapes out. We can start looping this Bauble for Alex. We have a lot of we can get this Pinnacle Emissary to the yard. There's a lot of options for Alex, a lot of lines. What are you taking if you're here and you're in this position, Scott?
So he's got, if he plays the Tormod script, he can cast the Kappa Cannoneer this turn, and that's, I'm pretty sure, just where you're going to be at. He could cast the Pinnacle Emissary out of the yard that he hit with the Emery, but I think I'd rather just have the Kappa, and just go for one big attack as quickly as I can and hope it doesn't get removed. Paul's doesn't have the Sarah Sanctum yet, and with only 2 enchantments, it may be enough to protect itself over going wide.
It looks like he does exactly that. So we slam the Kappa Cannoneer on the table, triggers itself. We cast this Tormod's Crypt, and we have what is it, a 6/6 at this point? So we definitely have a threat on board that can push damage. So I'm very interested to see what Paul tries to follow up with. Because it looks like we have that Enchantress effect. We have the Destiny Spinner on board, so we can very easily go 1-2 here. But let's see what Paul is cooking up on his side of the battlefield. All right, and we're back, folks. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties with the footage, but we have jumped forward in the match via time travel, and we have an Enchantress effect in play for Paul, a couple more artifacts. It looks like we're looping this Emery with the Pinnacle Emissary to try and grow this Kappa Cannoneer and push damage. Scott, at this point, who do you think is favored at this board state? I feel like it's pretty even, but I'm not entirely certain.
Well, if there was some way for Alex to get enough damage to kill this turn, I would agree with you. But if he doesn't kill him this turn, he doesn't have any removal or anything. I think Paul's just going to get the chance to deploy the containment, the solitary confinement next turn, and that may just be all she wrote if he gets enough draw after it. With 3 Enchantress effects, even 0 cards in hand, 1 good draw is all he needs to just keep going off to the races.
Yeah, fully agree there. I mean, Paul just kind of has like all the answers too with the Beseju, the Enchantress, the Solitary Confinement. I feel like on board, Alex might be having a commanding presence, but I feel like as soon as he passes the turn, Paul's going to be right in the driver's seat here. It's just I feel like this is just not the best matchup for Affinity Stompy. I think we kind of predicted this a little bit, at least for the post board matches. But I wasn't expecting a 1-2 punch here.
I definitely wasn't expecting it either. But as I said, Affinity was going to win by going as fast as it possibly could. Unfortunately, that wasn't really what Alex had. He took a little bit slower, more just get some solid value quickly, but not go absolutely turbo, go ham beyond all but reason. And that was going to be his big chance and didn't end up panning out. And it looks like it may end up costing him this
Yeah.
match.
And I don't think that's unreasonable from Alex's point of view, just because we typically know the type of player Paul is, in terms of playing the ponders and brainstorms, force of will. He's very much like a classic blue mage, and then him busting out Enchantress out of the closet just really is that left hit that curve that Alex I don't think was ready for. So trying to play more of a fair game versus Paul, I think was exactly as you said his downfall and not being able to be ready for this kind of matchup.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like matchup knowledge has caught up, and I definitely an unexpected element. Paul's sideboard was way better crafted for this matchup than Alex's could ever hope to be. So losing the game one was a huge hit to Alex.
Yeah, and to be fair to Alex, he's not probably going to have to ever see this matchup again, at least in paper, unless Paul decides to break out his Sarah Sanctums. But I think this is kind of like an old versus new matchup, and it kind of makes my heart flutter a little bit seeing Enchantress take the new cool deck to town. Because it still proves that there's a lot of life left in some of these older legacy builds.
Yeah, some good piloting, some good play can definitely get it going, and Enchantress definitely has at least a few matchups that I think are very good for it. It's just can be a little inconsistent, a little vulnerable in certain spots, just one or two good hits, and it can just run out of gas. It's just a little slow for the most part, but sometimes you just get that chance. And once it gets rolling, it is very much just a steam engine that'll keep running. And it's not many decks can get through it at that point.
Yeah, I think that's kind of we kind of have like a mirror image here. Is that like Enchantress is very much a kind of a snowbally deck that once it's a little bit slower on the beginning, but once it gets going, it's gone. Versus Affinity is that like I'm going to make a giant snowball and roll it down the hill and see what happens. And we kind of like it's kind of like almost like a mirror image match and just a very different way. But I've enjoyed this matchup so far just because it's so different than what you normally see. And it's just Alex has this great board, but the solitary confinement's just not letting him get through to Paul. And Paul, it looks like he's going to have just all the answers here with these three Enchantress presences in play. And it's just kind of world's his oyster. He's going to draw three more cards, and he has so many looks to try and or to close this game out.
Yep. Paul's hoping to either close it out or maybe hit the Sterling Grove to just be able to say, okay, now you can't deal with the solitary confinement. Because as it stands, if that got removed in some fashion from like an Otawara or a Sink, it's lethal right there with that Kappa Cannoneer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, do you think now's the time to start turning things sideways, or are we still, churning through the deck to look for more of a commanding board state from Paul here, or do you think he's trying to get it over with to kind of dodge that sink in the super or that Otawara?
I think he's trying to play more defensive for now. I don't think there's any reason for him to not really try to say, I'm going to take a defensive line. I'm just going to try to make it so you can't kill me back instead of risking it, especially without a Sarah Sanctum. He can only make one creature, and I don't actually even think that gets with the through the Kappa Cannoneer. So there's definitely no point attacking until it can safely attack without losing your land because he's very tight on mana here.
Yeah, that's very fair. Looks like we're gonna take out some of I like it. There it is right there. That's a very smart play by Paul to take out that Mox Opal. That's that second of one of his permanent blue sources. So he can't do that sink in the super line. He'd have to give up a pedal. And it looks like we're gonna follow it up with maybe a Stony Silence. So he's completely turned off that sink in the super line unless Alex hits another untapped blue land that's not Seat in the Sinai. That's just some great sequencing from Paul.
Yeah, it's definitely just choking him on the mana really hard. And with only one island left So 1 island and 3 sinks. Unfortunately, the sinks are also one of your answers, and actually really the only answer left, looking at it, with the Otawara being in play. So, yeah, this may just be lockdown now with the Stony Silence just turning so much off.
Yeah, because like Alex can't even activate this bauble for a redraw, so we're just kind of like playing. Alex is just playing draw go. I'm looking at the cards in my hand and wondering what what am I eating for dinner or what am I taking for lunch?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate spot for Alex to be in, but the Stony Silence, the Stony Silence may have locked this away here, really needing 2 more pieces. You can't really cast you could put a Chalice on one, but the Destiny Spinner says Chalice is an irrelevant card now, so I'm not sure there's much more Alex can do from here.
Yeah, and it looks like Alex agrees with you as he go ahead and picks up his cards, and Paul Lynch takes it down to nothing versus Affinity on Enchantress. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and transition here and talk about a little bit about the match. And there we have it, folks. Paul Lynch takes it down to nothing. As we wrap up here, Scott, do you have any thoughts about the match? Like, what are some like key points in the match, or you think that this is just a bad matchup for Alex, or a good day for Paul? What do you think?
So Paul definitely had some very good hands and some very good draws. He definitely got to keep churning and keep playing. Unfortunately, as was saying through the match, Alex wasn't really getting the chance to go fast enough. Can be a problem with the deck. It can be mulligan heavy and not necessarily get to fire on all cylinders. And I think that really cost him here. The ability to not go as fast as he could just gave Paul really not as much time as Paul had way faster go offs than I thought he was going to get the chance to. Like I thought Alex would have at least another turn or two, and Paul was just like, no, by turn 4, you're pretty much just locked out. And that's really impressive for an Enchantress deck.
Fully agree there. Yeah, I thought it was going to go a little bit different. We thought we were going to get a game 3 at bare minimum, but it was a great day for Paul and an unfortunate result for Alex. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pitch it over to Ryan, who is with Paul for our winners interview.
Oh, congratulations on your shockingly decisive victory. How do you feel right now?
Pretty good. Um, I do want to ask what decade it is, though. We had Green White Enchantress against Affinity.
I mean, your opponent had Kappas, so still this
Yeah,
decade,
but
right?
it's actually the deck looks nothing like Affinity, but
Yeah, about to
that's the
say.
matchup that you used to run into playing the deck back in the day. Um,
Yeah, like there's no Thoughtcast, there's an Emery, Pinnacle. Yeah, there's nothing in there.
yeah, no. So I would say everything went pretty well as planned. Only downside is uh game 2 probably went a little longer than what it should have. I actually misclicked. Or sorry, not misclicked, but I clicked on the wrong card to play. On turn 2, what I was supposed to do, and in my head I was going over, you have minimal cards in hand, you mulligan, you don't have anything of relevance in hand. Or sorry, I don't know if you have anything of relevance in hand. You don't have a fast clock. You have the Emery going, but there's nothing super relevant in the graveyard outside of the, I believe, the Pinnacle Emissary. But as it worked, the
Right.
mana didn't work. Like you would have to have additional stuff to go for it. And I was supposed to click and play the spinner to draw out counter magic, and then untap, and then on turn 3 hammer down into Sithis to draw more counter magic if needed, and then rest in peace to hit the whole graveyard. And at that point, I don't think that game would have went as far as it did. But it was still a little bit of a clinch situation there when the Kappa came down pretty fast, though.
The Kappa was, I think, the only part we were in the producer's booth. I think that was the only time we thought that you had any threat at all in that matchup. I mean, we were normally I take a ton of notes just to get like a sense of how the game's going so I could talk about things in this interview. But I was going through it, I'm just like, where's the discussion point? There's just every turn, it felt like you just had it locked up.
Yeah, so the thing with Enchantress is once it gets rolling, it's a really, really big critical mass deck, and once the ball starts rolling, it is insanely hard to stop. Usually the only things that do stop it are gonna be big sweepers. That's actually why Nevermore and the Karmic Justice is on the board. So if I ever get like Wrath of the Skies or Engineered Explosive or something like that, I'm taking you down with me. Or Nevermore comes in and just names it to hit off the bat. There was also the game went one turn longer than it should have in game one. I thought that I had a land drop to give with extra forest. So that's why I blew up the extra creature. And then with the Ghost and was like, well, I played the Sanctum. It's just a little bit of rust. I haven't even touched Enchantress and Legacy in multiple years, like even
Right.
before Orcish Bowmaster came out. So working on this deck was really, really fun. It got the creative juices flowing. Got to work with some people, my Enchantress team, shout out Scott. Me and him talked back and forth on some board plans and things like that, and different card choices and stuff like that. So it was fun. Definitely want to do it again. Maybe not with Enchantress, but I'm definitely looking forward to brewing some cool decks to keep going.
Yeah, about to say, you have now made the round of 8, and your opponent next round is going to be the winner of Kate Chelberg and Terry Stratton. Who you hoping comes out on top of that, and what do you think about that?
Personally, or just who I think's going to win.
Go with what you want here.
I think Kate's going to have the advantage in this one. Kate is a very, very, very strong player. She's a recent addition to the DMV team. I believe like a year and a half ago or so, 2 years.
If that.
They came in and quite frankly impressed everyone with her play. Super, super awesome person off the court too. She's great to hang out with. Hilarious. But she's a very, very, very good tempo player, knows all the matchups, knows the ins and outs of it. And if Terry plays what he normally does, which is, 37 color control with Urians and Wastelands, that's a good card. We can play Wastelands in this deck, and then, Spikes if it's lucky sometimes. I'm gonna go with Kate. Kate's gonna pick in that matchup.
All right. Well, the call has been made. We'll find out in a couple of days whether or not that's correct. But for now, we're going to send it back to Drew to close us out. Thanks, Paul.
Alrighty, thank you, Ryan and Paul. As we close out to this episode, we have the bracket here in front of us, and it looks like Paul is going to be facing either Kate Chelberg or Terry Stratton going in to the next round. Scott, what do you think about this matchup? Do you think Paul is going to stay on Enchantress? He might pivot, and then do you think who do you think is going to be a better matchup for him, Kate or Terry?
So it really depends, I think, a bit on who he gets. Terry is known for playing 80 card Yorion piles, especially Beans ones. So if he really wanted to run back Enchantress, that would be the deck that he would be want to play. I think Paul's wheelhouse is big enough that no matter who he hits, he may just change it up and maybe try to play to his opponent. But he could also just try to look for something fun to play that's a little bit different. So if he really wants to play Enchantress, Terry's the better choice over Kate.
Fully agree there. Kate also coming off hot off of two BCQ top eights and a showcase top eight. She was just on as this recording, the Beltway report, talking about those matchups. So it's going to be a lot of good magic coming our way as Kate versus Terry is our next episode going into the next further into the DMV League Super League season. And as we round this out, we want to do a quick shout out for our gold stores for making this whole production possible, and Curio Cavern, Dice City Games, Game Haven, Level Up Games, and Paradise Games and Gifts, all wonderful places to play Legacy in the DMV, as well as places to shop for your Magic and other TCG accessories. And then we also want to make sure we shout out CubeCon DMV coming up July 11th and 12th. 2 full days of Cube. We have the Legacy Classic on Saturday and Pauper Genesis on Sunday, which is now sold out. But don't worry about that. We also have side events going all weekend. We have pre-modern, Legacy, and Pauper winner boxes. We have Eternal Trios, jumbo cards. We have everything you can think of at a Magic convention. And are you excited for this, Scott? Because I know I am.
I'm really excited. It's going to be a long weekend, but it'll be a lot of fun. Lots of different Magic, especially formats that really don't get the attention they really deserve. We see lots of standard, we see lots of like modern, and while we do see limited, Cube is kind of its own unique beast. You can just see lots of the randomest things, some of the craziest cubes ever at CubeCon, and have lots of fun doing who really knows what. They set their own rules and just go with it, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the customization of the cube is definitely one of my favorites. But we're closing out the episode here. Scott, do you have any final words for the folks at home?
Uh, Come join us out every week. We have events going at least during the weekdays, and we would love to come see you play. If you're in the area, please join us. We'd love to have more people coming out, and please watch our streams for the Beltway reports to keep up with what's going on down here. And of course, there's more of the Super League. We love to have people watching and enjoying our content, and hopefully, you can join us at some point. We'd love to have you.
Yep. Even if you can't join us uh, in person, you can join us digitally. We do have a Discord for the DMV Legacy League, as well as you can follow us on socials. You can find all of that in the description below. With that said, wherever you are, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name's Cody Colston, and this is Daniel Scott signing off.